Hey everybody, Strangers103 here. Today with another replay cast. It's one of my own games. This time I am playing the new 222 Memeway with tier 8 torpedo bombers, playing with Chrysanthos and Mr. Conway in a division here on a Shatter game, is it? I think it's called Canada in the game files, but hey, whatever. We spawn on the eastern side of the map. I think we have a actual capital. Yep, we have an Iowa. But for some reason they're spawning here as well. So Yamato Konkuro plus Pudding and Lol Yang spawn on the A side of the map, and the vast majority of our fleet spawn on Charlie. So I think at this point it seems like we're actually going to go towards Charlie. This is a game I played a few days ago. Santos is playing a Salem, and Conway's in a Hindlol. I'm just gonna... not really going to go too much into detail about them, because this isn't really so much about, the overall unique play of anything, really. You'll get to see what happens this game. It's not really what I would call a typical Shadow game, but it is definitely something that is plausible, albeit rather silly on first glance. Moving our ship a little bit towards the middle and then forwards, going to do a pretty standard headwind launch double torpedo bomber towards Charlie, simply because there's a good chance it's going to be a destroyer there, and if there are destroyers in Charlie, it's always difficult to capture that flag, just because, you know, big island, and then big island north of it, and you just sit there behind it and nothing happens, and it's rather boring. I mean, you can kind of like go up here, get something around here, and try it, or on the other side here, and try to snipe people behind the island. But it's like just such a waste of time, really. I mean, there is another island that extends into B, and you can kind of hide behind it. I mean, the southern side has a slightly easier time hiding behind the big island in Bravo, so whatever. Anyways, torpedo bombers arriving near the Charlie area. I don't seem to see any sign of a destroyer yet. If they had anti-aircraft turned on, I would have been able to see them right now. If it's a Kaba rushing in, I would have seen that as well. But I just spot the Kaba approaching Bravo with a Minotaur behind that. Yamato in a division with a Montana heading towards the western side of the map. So it seems they kind of don't want to commit towards Charlie. Normally it's a high-risk proposition. In this case, we have an aircraft carrier in the division. So I would always be able to attempt to deal with any destroyer that tries to rush into Charlie early. So we're in reasonably good shape here off the start of the map, because we're contesting both Bravo and Charlie, and the enemy's not really going to, contest Charlie at all, and they're not really contesting Bravo yet. I mean, the Minotaur is heading that way with a cover there, so that Loyang could get caught quite easily. In the meantime, just now that the Montana's been spotted as well, and the Minotaur is there, the enemy, Des Moines, is actually in a division with the Yamato and Montana. I mean, if you have a look at that, Des Moines right there, B, and B. I didn't actually realize this at the moment I played this battle, so I think, yeah, look, a Yamato and a Montana. Get my dive bombers in there, set the Montana on fire. This should be a pretty free kill. But now I spot the Des Moines, I'm like, nah, not happening. Also, we spotted one of the Missouris on the western side of the map. That's a pretty obvious spawn because, well, I mean, they're a capital division. Actually, no, they are the capital division at this point, because this other division, Tier 10, has a Des Moines in it, so therefore they're no longer the full capital. I am still going towards the Montana with the intention of committing a drop on him, but now that I spot the Midway, I'm gonna, I'm like, alright, screw this, I'm gonna go after the Midway instead. The Des Moines is yet to trigger defensive anti-aircraft, I noticed that, but then again, if the Des Moines is reasonably smart, he knows to hold his defensive anti-aircraft until a little bit more. These guys are clearly aware of me being around, because they did launch their float planes. I think one of them even launched a float plane scout. I think that's the Yamato scout with the Montana fighters. I see that the enemy aircraft carrier is somewhere up on the northwestern side of the map. I am assuming the enemy aircraft carrier is going to defensive AA, but that actually wasn't really the case. But I still get a reasonable hit. Maybe I could have picked up one more dive bomber hit, but it's not really going to matter. I ordered the planes to fly a little bit away to kind of hide outside of range of the enemy top tier division's anti-air. As I come in, he actually now is triggered defensive, but it's no big deal. I'm in a Midway and he has failed to kill too many planes. In fact, he hasn't even focused his anti-aircraft properly, as I commit the drop and then somewhat delayed the swap back on my fighters to defend against the bombers. Don't actually realize that bomb is already dropped, but it's circling, so it's absolutely not doing anything. So I'm going to attempt to panic the other bomber squadron, and I think it actually works because this pudding doesn't actually seem to take a hit from that. I'm gonna put a bit of a stupid head-on strafe on against that one squadron in the attempt of clipping the other one. I do pick up 2 planes of that, but the enemy aircraft carrier is dead, so there's no more control of that. In the meantime, the Shift F to return home after movement order didn't seem to have gone through for my dive bomber, so they're just circling around somewhere silly right now. Do another. I failed recognition of pathing of the enemy fighter, so I failed to strafe that away. Meh. Our Yamato just explodes, so I'm putting in that completely stuffed. I mean, stuffed to begin with, anyways. And we've lost all Yang, we've lost Dr. Javai, so we just have one Shima left, but the Kagero and B just went down, so we're not in the world's best situation considering we've just lost one of our battleships, and we might be needing battleships in the event the enemy tries to make a push at some point. Although the enemy top tier battleship division is currently sufficiently far out of battle that they are, at this moment, completely irrelevant. You can totally understand them not wanting to commit towards Charlie, though, because it's a really difficult thing to get, especially if you don't have an aircraft carrier to be able to kind of trust. Anyways, I'm sending my fighter somewhere towards the B area. I do get the anti-aircraft spotting against the Minotaur. It's not a major deal. He doesn't actually have as good anti-aircraft as I originally may have believed. And now Kisantos is pushing around the corner, so I'm going to send my fighter in there on top of the Minotaur just to keep that spotted if possible, if it does leave the smoke screen. Otherwise, I can also try to spot torpedoes for Chrysanthos, and that's really what I'm here for, to make sure that this Minotaur doesn't actually get the torp. Since he just shot, I don't think he would have been able to send any torpedoes, although I should have kept my fighter pretty much on top of him, just to make sure that that would not be the case. Otherwise, I'm leaving one fighter up in the northern end and one fighter somewhat central. I want to find out where the enemy Shima is, because that's kind of what matters at this point. Because knowing where the Shima is means that I can much more freely be able to, position my ship somewhat closer, although in this case, being worried about the Shima and the overall situation of the map, and the fact that we're kind of somewhat, at least I perceive us to be losing, because if you look at the losses, we lost the Yamato, although not really that big of a deal. They've lost no battleship yet, although without having thought about this, this was a game played somewhat late, but the enemy top tier division is sufficiently far out of the battle that they just simply haven't gotten in there yet. Anyways, without an enemy aircraft carrier and just them having a Shima, I feel reasonably comfortable in just going off and doing whatever I want at this point. Going to try to protect the flank of the team overall, be it the northern or the southern one, and park reasonably centrally. Well, I intend to park reasonably centrally on the E line, so yeah. First target is going to be the Missouri up north. Doesn't seem like she's interested in pushing around the corner. Maybe the threat of a Conkalol being there makes this Missouri think twice about that. But in all honesty, if the enemy team's Missouris, if they just took 2 of those Missouris around the northern side and the Yamato Montana group down south, leaving the one Missouri or maybe even a 2, Missouri plus Yamato or something in the middle of the map, that would have been just fine. And this game should have been a defeat for us at that point. But the enemy team wants to do the good old, oh my god, we need to cap, as Chrysanthos takes a very nasty torpedo salvo, which pretty much tells us the Shim is somewhere in the middle of the map. And that pretty much tells me I can cycle one of my northern fighter. Because these Missouris do not have access to floatplane fighters, I can just go in and attack at any given point I want. I mark this Missouri for death if you want. I mean, you're dead because you damage control party of the fires. If you didn't damage control party of the fires and you didn't have a full AA spec, you're dead anyways, because my torpedo bombers will come in and just make you cease to exist after a fire burn are done, and you're still screwed, so it does not matter. But at this point, having used the damage control party, I can do a bit of a silly drop like this. I think the guy's actually trying to accelerate, but it doesn't matter. I just need to hit like 3-4 torpedoes, get a flooding, and this guy is bugged. And well, here we go. Torpedoes going. The guy actually detonates. Reap. But hey, dead Missouri's dead Missouri. The guy was going to die anyways. It would just be a question of how many more salvos the guy could fire after having taken those torpedoes and the flooding. So, realistically speaking, the end result for me is that I could have had like 150 odd K damage as the guy starts flooding down and counter heals that. Probably not, because the rest of the team probably would have been shooting at that, because it would be the lower HP target. So I guess in the end, just detonating and deleting the guy would in the end be the better result to get. By now, the enemy Des Moines is being smokescreened, so, like, yeah, that pretty much tells us kind of where the Shimmy is, because if you look at it, the enemy has no other ship that can smoke. We have a Shimmy, but that Shimmy is not, there. So, that smokescreen tells us where the Shimmy is, although I kind of failed to recognize that. I'm like, is that a Minotaur or something? No, Stranger, you idiot, the Minotaur's dead. Crisantos killed that earlier. In fact, Crisantos went and liberated his smokescreen and tried to use it for himself. But I think it's just too close to the Missouris, and they could just perma radar him or something, and didn't really think he was gonna have a good time there. But at the moment, Conway is just spamming over islands. For the moment, he seems to be rather exposed, but the enemy Yamato has finally applied a little bit of strategic thought and is now heading south, but we have an aircraft carrier, and that is midway in the aircraft carrier, so you're going to have a bad day, comrade. Dive bomber going in. I mean, it's the Yamato. People usually don't spec anti-aircraft on Yamatos, and if they do, after I click it a few times with dive bombers, there won't be much anti-aircraft left. Going in one by one like this is no real problem for a midway like this, but dive bombers are survivable enough that I can get away with it. Both Shimas on each team actually trade to enemy battleship secondaries, but at least the enemy Shima is dead, so what I do with my fighters at this point is just 100% complete. Who gives a darn? Do get only one fire with the bomber. I think the guy may actually have fire prevention, which, I mean, it's no biggie for me. Gonna keep my dive bomber there just to absorb some of the attention of the enemy floatplane fighters. I do get rather lucky, and the rear gunners kill that off pretty fast, and I think someone else, not sure if it's Conway or whoever, does actually get an additional fire. So that's 2 fires taking on the Yamato. I'm going to go with the torpedo bombers in like this. Pretty unfortunate the stern hit doesn't actually net me a flooding, but because both fires extinguish at the exact same time, I know this guy has used a damage control pata, and you know what that means. Here's Johnny. You're stuffed. Double fire with the dive bombers. He is naturally focusing my torpedo bombers, which is generally going to be the bigger threat. I mean, at this point, I don't even care what the result is. I do actually manage to get double flooding at this point, but the results are pretty obvious. You're buggered. If he had gone with a Des Moines on the flank, maybe I would have been less inclined to try to make an attack over there and just try to finish off some of these Missouris and Montanas instead. Because, there's no threat to defensive anti-aircraft. I don't actually think this guy had any anti-aircraft spec whatsoever, because he neither triggered defense earlier in the battle, and he didn't actually have any range, not when I flew past him in the beginning, and not when I flew past him pretty much right about now. So this Des Moines isn't really too big of a threat to me, but there's always the issue that there is potential that the Des Moines could have a defensive anti-aircraft available, and that could pretty much screw over one of my attacks, but at this point it doesn't matter because there's no enemy aircraft carrier to threaten my aircraft. So it's gonna be a pretty meek plane shot down game. I mean, I didn't even farm the rest of his planes at the end there. I could have just straight into the Montana group and tried to pick up more fighter kills, but not want to feeding the enemy Missouris like this, because I want to try to kill him off later in the game. Although it could have been useful to know which Missouri has anti-aircraft spec and which one doesn't. But, I mean, you saw it on the map. The enemy team is blobbed up on the middle. Our team blobbed up near B. Now our Conqueror is flanking up north, which is, he was doing he was pretty much serving a flank security role, but since I killed the only Missouri that was in a position remotely to even advance at the northern side, this Conqueror could have gone up the northern side of the map a little bit earlier and potentially picked up some more. If the enemy Des Moines, Montana, and the Yamato group hadn't also just locked themselves into a bit of a trade mate, and I mean, I'm just gonna call it that, trade mate, new word, guys. It's a mashup between stalemate and trade, I guess. But just if we just hadn't been sitting there trying to bow and trade each other, this game could have been a lot easier for the enemy team, because I'm a midway. If I was in a Hakuryu in this case, with the enemy aircraft carrier having been eliminated, although I would not have been able to eliminate the enemy aircraft carrier at the start of the game like that with a Hakuryu out of the blue. Because it just lacks this anti-battleship and through defensive attack capability. As I get 3 fires on the Des Moines, AP bombers would have just probably outright killed the guy. You can see, only managed to knock out one plane. This guy is not focusing my planes, not triggering defensive anti-aircraft, and just overall not really being very useful at all, because he's just stuck there and he's about to get Missouri and goes down. to pick up 240k damage as my game decides to explode. Not too bad, because I mean, it saves me the bother of having to record some kind of game screen. I mean, I don't actually think I have the post-battle results screens for this game. It's absolutely nothing special whatsoever in terms of the gameplay, just because it's a, it's a mid where you kind of expect to be able to pull around 180k damage in a matchup like this, where I knock out the enemy carrier early, and we do get to sink the entire enemy team without the points disturbing that. It's, 240k damage is nothing too special. Would I have been able to achieve this with a Hakuryu? Definitely not, because the enemy aircraft carrier would probably still be alive. Although in that position, I probably would have committed a drop and killed off the Montana earlier, because I would have likely figured out that the Des Moines didn't have defensive anti-aircraft, and just, went in, tried to click the Montana away. And the game probably would have been a lot harder. In fact, in that case, if the enemy aircraft carrier had been able to achieve even something remotely decent, we probably would have been defeated in this battle, and I wouldn't be showing this game to you. I have been playing quite a few Midway games for those that have been following my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/strangers123. Drop by if you get the chance, give me a follow, and you'll get the notifications if and when I do decide to stream. Don't expect anything for this coming week, but next week I should be able to find a little bit more time to do more content for you fine ladies and gentlemen, but I'm not sure I'll actually have the time to be able to do any kind of significant streaming in the upcoming 2, maybe even 3 weeks, potentially even for the rest of this year. But I will be trying to do the cooking live streams that I have promised you guys for at least until upwards of the Christmas festivities period. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this replay cast. I hope you guys found it useful. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Click the notification button so you get notified whenever I push out new content. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.